Ladies and gentlemen, this is internet personality Vangelus, and the first wave of Combiner Wars has arrived, resplendent in its questionable figure assortment. I'm gonna start off with the first figure I popped open, another modern take on my boy Firefly, now called Firefly. He's still bouncing through names like he did back when he got his badass Fall of Cybertron figure, but I know that plated face when I see it, even though it was only really plated for Fall of Cybertron. This jet mode is ridiculously referential to the G1 original, right down to the choice of color striping on the wings and tail fin. They aren't 100% accurate in shape, and neither is, well, the entire jet mode. Firefly's a lot less skinny and totally has a block of undercarriage, though it's swept back enough that a frontal viewing angle will hide most of the mush. And honestly, the forearms are the only thing that really bugs me. Quickly folding them to sit under the wing shows the potential for an alternate transformation that preserves a nicer looking top-down silhouette, though I don't know where to really go from here. Also, I kinda wish the feet folded up somehow, as they currently represent some permanently deployed rear landing gear stuff. The front landing gear stores up under the cockpit at least. I'll be honest, I'm okay with the robot undercarriage given how much it's compressed and reshaped itself. The forearms would have had to do some tricky stuff to hide away, as there's not really any room inside the main mass of the jet mode. There's a 5mm port under each wing, and Firefly comes with 2 storable weapons. Unfortunately, there's no symmetry here whatsoever, if that's something you require. If you do require it, then I guess you're buying 2 Fireflies anyway, because you're going to need symmetrical colors on your Superion. You crazy person! Firefly's transformation is simple, but I really like what was done with the shoulders and legs. The entire main shoulder mass was displaced for jet mode, and the legs eschew a simple slider for this super solid inner zigzag joint setup. And yo, check this! The inner unseen leg of the zigzag has got some piston sculpting on either side that you'll only see during transformation. The nose cone and cockpit fold back to replicate the G1 backpack, though the tail fin doesn't come up to join them. In fact, it kinda just gets forgotten. On the whole, this is a textbook example of a conversion hitting a strong balance of fun, expediency, and solidity. In robot mode, Firefly's colors are so ridiculously G1, blazing white and red everywhere with silver, blue, and black paint for flavor. He doesn't have a lot of ink, but what makes Firefly work so well is his composition of color. All the placements are strong, organized, and varied enough to feel interesting and obvious in a lot of positive ways. And his aesthetics are pretty badass, basically going for the look of an articulated G1 toy who's got a slightly roided torso. I could have done with Firefly's shoulders and wing pack sliding in a few millimeters closer to his chest, but he wears the look really well, right down to the natural lines and curvature of his stature. Also, shouts out to little cannon things on his knuckles. I already let slip that I love the head sculpt, and that's because it continues everything I dug about the angry Space Knight visage that his Fall of Cybertron figure evoked. And despite the combiner peg literally just sitting there in plain view, Firefly's color arrangement makes it blend in quite effectively. It just looks like part of his chest design. This guy's version of the hand-foot gun is a simple double-barreled blaster affair, though they've got enough of a turbine look to feel like they gout jets of flame or plasma. Where am I going with this? Thanks to XV over on Twitter, I realized that Firefly's personal weapon is a straight-up friggin' flamethrower! It's got a gas tank, there's a pilot light setup running along the bottom, and yo, his first name is Fire. Getting all limular, I want to start off by talking about Firefly's arm mode, which debuts one of my favorite fairly unsung features of the Deluxes in this line. There are a pair of tabs specifically for Firefly's hands to kinda loosely grab onto, and his forearms have some subtle shaping that lets them fit around the fins on the sides of the cockpit. Like, having a specific placement for the arms of the ArmBot's arm mode? Some third-party limb robots don't even do this. Also, the swept-down white wings make for a cool shoulder design, and in my preferred forearm orientation, there's a badass triple-finned wrist cuff. Firefly's leg mode is a billion years less interesting, as it's 99% just his jet mode. Again, the wings and tail fins make for a neat bit of visual design, but this is way more function than finesse. It does have a nice bit of meat to it as a shin, though, which somewhat justifies the width of Firefly's backpack/jet body. As for the combiner functionality itself, be sure to check out my Wave 1 overview video if you haven't already. Check this out. So the aerial bots can fly, right? So ostensibly they'd fly like this. The ball-jointed neck on this guy, there's a cut in the back of the head sculpt so that he can look straight forward while he's flying, and that's fantastic! It's a pretty decent ball joint, actually. You get a small amount of waggle, but you get plenty of motion in the 2 cardinal axes, and I just friggin' love that, man. That's thinking ahead. That's topical. He's got ball socket shoulders, the big cut for full outward rotation, and they're pretty tight, moving around, forward and backward. The transformation joint, if you want, can be used for additional posing stuff. Like, I guess if you want him to cross his arms, that could come in handy, or if you need him to hold a lightsaber, that could help. He's got bicep swivels, and he's got really well done detented elbow joint. It feels fantastic. There's a lot of clicks in here, and every single one of them feel dead solid. This guy does the fakey fake ratchet joint really well. There's a waist joint. It's slightly off-center. As you can see, the axis for rotation is back here. But for just a bit of minor waist movement, I think it does a pretty good job. It does lock there, so there is some friction. You can't just free swivel him left and right. Ball socket hips with supreme Van Damme ability, and forward and backward stuff, of course. There's a thigh swivel, a simple 90-degree knee bend. Just one hinge. There are other hinges in here. They all lock together, though, for transformation. I guess if you unlock that and pretend there's no giant red thing hanging off of his heel, then you could get a slightly deeper knee bend, but that would be tremendously silly. No ankle tilts or wrist joints. I can survive without the wrist joints, and the feet are sculpted for an A stance in a way that I think really works. The thing about this guy that I just love is when I get him just standing in his regular A stance with his arms curled in, kind of a superhero A stance. The lines of his body are just sick, man. Like, I don't know if you can see what I'm talking about or if that even makes any sense to you, but just the natural curvature to this guy feels great. If there was a way to suck his shoulders in a bit, I think he would be, like, just aesthetically dead perfect. As it is, I can survive this. It's not bad. All of the aerial bots have wide shoulders, so in the case of Firefly, I think it just sticks out the most because he's got, like, stalks here, whereas Skydive has actual armor coming out this far. Durability-wise, dude, just feels good. Like, there's a little bit of a density to him, mostly because of all the springy stuff in the combiner port. There's also, like, a rubber nose cone up here, so that, you know, you can wing him at stuff and he can you know, bounce off of it, I guess. But yeah, I really dig the feel and the posability of Firefly here. He is the poster child for what I really am looking for out of a Combiner Wars Deluxe in a lot of ways, and I dig it, man. Firefly was the first Combiner Wars Deluxe that I opened, and to be honest, he's my favorite of the first wave. He hits a lot of the key notes of the limb robots. Both modes are deadly strong, the transformation is quick, fun, and satisfying, and he just feels lovely in hand. His biggest weakness is the rearward undercarriage of his jet mode, something that likely won't be a problem on any of the Stunticons, but Firefly nonetheless represents much of what I am looking forward to in 2015's Generations toys. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and I'll be honest, I figured out the numbers-letters scheme for these Combiner Wars reviews about 10 minutes after I recorded the audio from the end of that Wave 1 overview video. The packaging basically did half the brainstorming for me. I mean, like, why do I even put thought into things like breathing or eating when there's, like, toy packaging sitting around to tell me what to do? Anyway, I gotta go count my points of articulation to make sure I'm up to spec, so, excuse me.